Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
And I'm Don Neuen. And this is Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glares. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Welcome to Cowboy Logic Radio, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen.
Hey, Donna. Donna.
Yeah?
Listen to my voice, Donna.
What'd you do, inhale helium?
Ooh. Check me out. How's this sound?
Sounds like you inhaled helium.
It's a new gadget that I've got here on Cowboy Logic Radio. You like how this sounds?
No, I don't.
You want me to do this the rest of the night?
No, I don't.
No.
You sound like...
Go ahead and try to do your headlines tonight.
No.
Come on.
No.
Come on.
No.
Go ahead and try to do...
I'm not going to do my headlines. You sound like you belong in an Austin Powers movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Don Neuen, and welcome to tonight's riveting episode of Cowboy Logic Radio. And in the immortal words of Chris Cuomo, let's just get after it.
That's pretty bad.
All right, let me get rid of that.
Did you inhale helium?
No, it's a new gadget I've got here on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Oh, God. So Chris Cuomo has stolen your
Let's
line.
get after it. What do you say we just get after it? Let's get after it.
Spoon now. Chris Cuomo.
You know, I actually tried to find the soundbite for that. That I think Greg Gutfeld played over and over.
Yes, that old compilation of let's just get after it. It's not quite what you say, but it's pretty close.
It's close enough that I'm going to nail him for plagiarism.
I guess.
Hey, Donna. Donna.
What?
Listen to my voice, Donna.
No, I don't want to. Will you get rid of that stupid thing?
Check me out. How's this sound?
It sounds like... No. Come on.
Let's just get after it.
No. Can we stop now? Ow, he just hits his head on the microphone there.
I hit the bill of my hat.
You hit the bill.
It was the bill of my hat.
Okay. Your hat, which is a big American hat with an American flag on it.
You like it?
I don't know which one I have
in
on.
honor of Independence Day.
Yes, it is a tactical hat.
Yes, it is.
With a patch on it. Mm-hmm. And if this was television, you all would be able to see it. But, hey, if the Queen had you-know-whats, she'd be king.
I know.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, on a very serious note, let me welcome you to tonight's absolutely riveting episode of Cowboy Logic Radio, featuring the ever-stellar, talented, sexy, beautiful Don Neuen, ladies and gentlemen, along with my cohort and my partner in crime, the more beautiful, the more stellar, and the more talented Donna Fiducia. Back to you, Donna.
Mommy.
This is the third week in a row that you've started the show off with whining, sup-sucking, blubbering.
This is true, because children are now housed in cages because of Donald Trump. Still, despite the fact that he ended that policy 2 weeks ago, the libs think they have something they can hold on to. So now it's children are housed in cages, crying for their mommies. What about the 40,000 plus children of American citizens whose mommy or daddy are in jail because they did something illegal? Not like maybe coming into the U.S. illegally. No, that's not illegal. They're just called illegal aliens, even though they're not illegal. So what do we have now? No borders, no peace. The war against ICE is now heating up. They have this commie lib. What is she, an American Socialist Party?
Oh, the gal from New York?
Yeah, that one in Queens, New York, which is the bastion of communism anyhow.
Hey,
So
socialism sounds great until you actually implement it.
Until you run out of other people's money.
And then I wasn't going to use that trite saying. That came from Margaret
Thatcher.
But
That's true.
Trite means that it's overused. And it is.
Well, but
Margaret
it's not
Thatcher said that years
overused.
ago, and you and I have said it 100 times.
Yes, but the commie
I'm coming up
libs
with a
don't
new
learn from
socialism
history.
statement.
Okay, what is
Okay?
it?
Socialism is great until you actually try to implement it.
I think it's great until you actually have to start paying taxes, get out of mommy's basement, and stop playing video games and get a job.
I think that you should tell me how great my statement was.
I don't think your statement's all that great. to be honest with you.
Hey,
So if they cared about the children, they'd protest.
hey, did you just knock me?
Yes, I did.
What's up with that?
They'd protest in Chicago, in Baltimore, in L.A., in just about any big city run by a commie. Liberal Democrats have been running these cities for decades. And guess who rears his ugly head from the great state of Illinois?
Dick Turbin?
That would be Dick Turbin. A senator, no less.
Dick Turbin.
Also called for ICE to be abolished. See, as soon as this 28-year-old who has, everybody says, oh, she's, Jenny from the block. She's not. She grew up in a extremely, apparently,
She came from a lot of money, right?
well-to-do household.
Yeah,
Yes.
a rich socialist family.
Exactly.
Those are also known as the upper
Hypocrites.
1%.
Exactly.
The elite. The
Exactly.
ruling class.
I know. But see, Dick Durbin and now all the Democrats are jumping on this. Well, maybe we have something here. We can't get him on Russian collusion.
No.
We can't get him on Stormy Daniels.
No.
We can't get him on anything else except maybe we can get him on this because he's separating the children from their parents. Well, you know what? First of all, half these kids don't even come with their parents. It's a 1,300-mile trip. And you want to talk about child abuse? That's child abuse. Many of these parents give their kids to coyotes. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. So Dick Durbin says, ICE needs to be abolished, let alone the fact that it's actually the Border Patrol that arrests these
What is their
illegals,
reason?
not ICE.
Have any of them offered even a flimsy reason for abolishing
They
ICE?
want no borders. They want no borders because they say ICE is ripping these kids from mommy.
Well, then you have to
but
ask
they're
the
not.
question,
It's the Border Patrol that does that.
Okay, then you have to ask them, why don't you want any borders?
Exactly.
And what would they answer, Donna?
Because they're communists. They won't answer anything. Because we all have to live.
Because Donald
in
Trump's a racist.
One big happy family. Yes, and that too. So get a load of this.
Okay.
Okay. So now we have an illegal immigrant arrested for arson in Colorado that destroyed over 53,000 acres. His name is Jorgesa or something like that. He's Swedish, actually. Okay. 104 houses have been destroyed in this massive fire. And he's been arrested. And guess who they're going to turn him over to because he's been arrested?
Who?
ICE.
That's cold.
And it was ICE, very funny, who nabbed this jerk in the first place. So again, every time the Dems get a narrative, it backfires on them. I love it.
All right, well, tell me how this is working out for all you advocates of the Department of Education and public education.
I see you got that from the New York Post.
Of course I did.
We have the New York
Donna-
Post delivered here.
Donna, have you ever heard of this school? It's within the New York City Department of Education.
Probably.
Abraham Lincoln Intermediate School 171.
Well, they have
It's
numbers
in
for
Brooklyn.
them. Okay.
Now, how would you say Brooklyn?
Brooklyn.
Okay, very
Brooklyn.
good. All right, well, the address of this school, let's see, is 528 Ridgewood Avenue in Brooklyn, New York, 11208. The principal's name is Indira, I-N-D-I-R-A, Indira
Gandhi?
Mota.
Oh,
M-O-T-A. All right, now check this letter out. This is a letter that was sent home to parents of selected students Thursday, June 21st, 2018. Dear parent/guardian, congratulations! Your child has been promoted to the 7th grade. However, if the budget allowed, your child would have been sent to summer school. Please be advised that your child has to attain a 75% or above in each subject. Have a great summer. Looking forward to having a better year. Sincerely, Ms. Mota. Principal. Check her out, Donna. Isn't she cute?
yeah, I'm very attractive.
She looks like a cross between
You can pick these people out of lineups.
Sotomayor
And Elena Kagan.
something else that's undefinable.
She's more attractive
here's the
than that
point.
woman who blasted Barbara Bush.
They
after
didn't
she
pass.
died from
This particular
Fresno State.
seventh grader didn't pass.
So what does that mean? Mommy and Daddy have to pay for summer school?
No. Congratulations. Your child has been promoted to the seventh grade. However, if we'd have had the budget, they'd have been in summer school.
So in other words,
but we don't.
We're just going to pass these kids along.
Have a great summer. Look at the last line of this. Have a great summer.
Do you know New York City?
Looking forward to a better year.
When I left New York 10 years ago, they were spending upwards of $15,000 a student in the public school. And you know what's unbelievable? Is that they actually had somebody call up. Who was it? It was Rush. Might have been Rush Limbaugh last week. She said, I got involved with the PTA in my school. Okay. And she goes, and I go to these meetings and we actually are talking. And then she's a teacher. And then she's in the union. She goes to a union meeting and they're talking about how they're going to have, what they're going to do about tenure and what they're going to do about benefits and what they're going to do about this and that. And the woman finally says, what about the children? Are we going to talk about the children in this teachers meeting? And they all just laughed at her and went, no, this is a union meeting. And that's the problem. Stan Levy says it best. What's the problem? Teachers unions. 2 words, teachers unions.
That's the problem.
It is. It's huge. And the average New York public school student takes 7 years to get through. None of them
it's
graduate.
like a doctorate degree.
Oh, like 40%.
That's a
graduate
JD. That's a
in
law
4 years.
degree.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Half the time they just get them out of there just like that, just to pass them along. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. The failure rate is humongous. And a lot of times, if they do get to college, they have to take remedial courses because they can't read. But you know what? They know what global warming is.
Well, yes, they do. And they know that Donald Trump is a racist.
Yep, that's what they do. And they also know all kinds of sexual stuff that they teach you in health class that I didn't know till I watched Deliverance.
We didn't know that kind of stuff until our kids came home and taught us about it. You know what I mean?
I know. Really
Don't get me started on that. I might say something.
Are you
Hey,
done
by
here?
the way, ladies and gentlemen, I posed with the lazy donkey, happy donkey this weekend, Donna.
Yes, you did, but you didn't pose like Greg Norman posed in the ESPN magazine, did you?
I couldn't look at it, Donna. Please tell me. It's like everything is like
Sagging.
Johnny Knoxville.
You know
Bad
what gets
grandpa.
me? For some reason, we get ESPN magazine sent to the house. It's somebody else's name, but it's my address. So I have no idea who this person
And
is.
we can't stop it. We've tried to do everything to stop the ESPN magazine.
This is the second year in a row I've gotten the Nudie magazine issue. And so I'm
And for those of you that haven't seen this is like the swimsuit edition of Sports Illustrated.
But it's totally
except
nude.
they're totally in their bathing suits, and it's athletes that we could care less about.
No, they're in their birthday suits, not
What did
their
I say?
bathing suits. You said bathing suits.
Well, I meant birthday suits.
So there's a figure skater on the guy. It's tastefully done. You can see most of these guys are in great shape. So, of course, I'm leaving through.
Yeah, but where are the girls?
There's girls, too.
Really?
Yeah, there's girls. There's everything.
Well, listen, I just read
And
the
then
articles.
there's Greg Norman.
I just read the articles.
And I went, are you kidding me? But he's actually
Was
in
everything
pretty good
like
shape.
sagging? Were things
He's
down?
in a hell of a lot better shape than
was like
most people his
where the
age. I'll
bells
tell you
toll?
that much. It was pretty darn funny, though.
Did you
Greg
get it, Donna?
Norman?
Where the bells toll?
Yes.
What was I talking about? No, don't say it.
I won't say it.
But you're thinking it, right?
Yes.
Ding, dong.
All right, can we change the subject here? Michael Cohen breaks his
Ding.
silence.
Ding. Ding. What is
Anyhow.
that? What is that, Donna?
I don't know.
That's Greg Norman walking.
Oh, is that what that is? Oh, jeez. You're so bad.
No, that's not what I meant.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought you meant.
That's kind of what I meant.
So Michael Cohen breaks his silence talking with George Snuffleupagus.
I wonder if Michael Cohen is a nice Jewish boy.
Yeah, he is.
Do you
And
think
he's a good lawyer, too?
Do you think he's a nice Jewish boy,
But
Donna?
did you see the picture of the two of them? Cohen has a suit on. Snuffleupagus is in a polo shirt with loafers and no socks. I mean, you have a huge interview with this guy. Apparently, it wasn't on video, though. So, of course,
what did we see
stuff
then?
is leaking out.
Was
We
it
saw
a still photo?
Pictures, yes.
Oh, well, that makes it all better.
Now, bear in mind, Robert Mueller raids an attorney's office for the duly elected president of the United States. So Michael Cohen now says, well, my first loyalty is to family and country, not necessarily Donald Trump. So we'll see. That's what ABC is saying. And he once said that he is the guy who would take a bullet for Donald Trump. Now, we've got 12,000 files the feds have reviewed that are privileged, but who says they can't operate knowing this information. See, this is the thing.
I am sick and tired of privileged documents.
But what really gets me...
They think they know everything.
But this is Mueller's MO. You squeeze the guy until they say what they want to hear. Now, Michael Flynn...
And then before you know it, Donna, pop. Just like a rising on your back. You know what a rising is, Donna? No. Hey, let's bring Jeff Sessions in and ask him what a rising is.
Have you seen Jeff Sessions lately?
General Sessions.
Yeah, Attorney General.
You coming from the great state of Alabama, how would you describe a rising?
Thank you very much, Don.
What are you talking about?
Okay, I'm going to tell you, Donna, what a rising is. Now, a rising in Southern talk, like Jeff Sessions would talk, is like a rather large boil.
Oh, that's what I thought you were going to say.
Or a pimple of enormous size.
Now, can we change the subject?
You
That's
wanted to know what a rising was.
No,
I'm going to tell you what a rising is.
I didn't want to know what it was.
A rising starts off as a very sore area, oftentimes with a red pigmentation.
I see a bad moon rising.
It could be very much like a back moon.
Trouble on the way.
Here's what happens, Donna.
What?
I'm going to tell you the stages of a rising.
Yeah.
Now, what ends up happening, and you, ladies and gentlemen, those of you that have had a rising, I haven't, so I don't really know what they feel like, but the way they look, they got to hurt. What happens?
It becomes after dinner.
It becomes. Hold on, Donna. It becomes bulbous. It becomes bulbous. And it becomes more red. And sometimes you can feel the heat on it. If you put your hand on it, you can feel the heat. The temperature is rising, and that's why they might call it a rising. And then what happens? You want to put a soft, warm washcloth on that rising.
I kind of like it when you weren't anywhere around here, Mr. Sessions.
And then what you do, Donna, you get what happens.
That's just gross.
The rising,
I don't want to know about it.
The rising is like Mount Vesuvius, Donna.
Gross.
And everybody around you turns to salt. And then the sea is parted, and the next thing you know, Michael Cohen is a nice Jewish boy.
Can we get back to Robert Mueller here?
Sure, I didn't know that's what we were talking about.
You squeeze.
You got me on the. Oh,
I
squeeze.
said you squeeze.
We were talking about risings.
And that's what you got. That's just gross. This is the biggest abuse of power at the highest level that I have ever witnessed in my life. Okay, and I've been doing news for close to 40 years now.
Many decades.
Many decades. But the thing is, this is how Robert Mueller and Rosenstein and Andrew Weitzman work. Remember, Weitzman, the number 2 guy under Mueller, is the guy that got a conviction overturned 9-0 by the Supreme Court. But by that time, you have ruined the people you're going after. And of course, obviously, in this case, we're talking about Donald Trump. And the sentencing of Michael Flynn has been delayed because it was learned from the IG report that they withheld some evidence from Flynn to force him to make the statements he made. So
Who
Mueller,
does number 2 work for?
Robert Mueller. That would be Andrew Weitzman.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen.
The record there continues. Meanwhile, BuzzFeed, get a load of this. You got to talk about people who are just doing anything they can to get Donald Trump. BuzzFeed has obtained shredded documents reconstructed by the FBI. How did that happen? How'd they get hold of that?
I would say clear cellophane tape. Hey, Donna.
They put the shredded documents back together.
If you look up BuzzFeed in the dictionary, what do you find? You find a picture of a Waffle House. Don't you got that BuzzFeed going on with all that legal doobie and all those pot smokers up in Canada and Colorado and every place?
You think
back
that's
to you,
how
Donna.
they named it? BuzzFeed? That's why they named it BuzzFeed.
I have no idea. It's just the
Meanwhile,
first thing that popped into my mind.
Donald Trump's approval rating now is at 48%. More and more pundits are saying that the left and the Never-Trumpers need to grow up. Trump is the president. Heads are exploding all over blue states. The New York Post's Michael Goodwin even has a great column. Donald Trump really is president. deal with it.
Yeah, I saw that. Hey, Donna, you know what we learned this weekend? And we need to do a shout out for somebody, if you don't mind.
What?
We learned that many of the drivers for Star Coaches listen to our show.
That's because they got nothing else to do while
when
they're
traveling along the interstates in the middle of the night. What do? They pull us up. So we want to do a shout out to one Sergio Sanabria, who we had the pleasure of being able to spend some time with this weekend. He's from our West Coast driving fleet, our West Coast division, and he was in Atlanta. He had picked up a brand new bus, a 2019 Prevost X3 single slide, ladies and gentlemen.
Beautiful.
Built by the great Nicodino. He's probably related to you because he's Italian.
No, just because he's got
He's
a vowel at the
conservative
end of his
and
name?
Italian.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah. So at any rate,
There aren't a lot
Sergio
of those.
Sanabria, we know you're listening because you told us you do, and you were telling us about all the guests that we've had on our show. We knew you listened. You verified it, and we have vetted you. Hola, amigo.
Stop with the Spanish. Hey, God bless Devin Nunes. We only got a couple minutes left. I want to get to this. Nunes is apparently referring at least 10 current and former DOJ and FBI officials to the House Judiciary and Oversight Committee, because this is how much deeper the deep state really is. The Dems are meeting with Christopher Steele, he of the Steele dossier, and Nunes wants to talk to the Dems who did meet with Steele. And this apparently includes the alleged spy put in the Trump campaign, or spies, because there may be more than one, including the one that had dealings in London. And apparently they went to the Obama Justice Department, then the State Department. Nunes says we're having to do the work the media is not doing. And I agree with him. The media did their work. We wouldn't have this problem, because if they went after the whole situation with this the way they've gone after Donald Trump, this would be a story that lasted about a month. But they don't. And you know really why? It's because they're part of it. They really are.
Hey,
they're in bed with the
scan
malls.
that I've highlighted in yellow and talk about. This is one of your people from the New York area.
What's this? 14 speed cam tickets.
Yeah, but who is it?
since
Over there on the
2000.
left-hand corner.
State Senator Martin Golden, below, being ticketed for illegally parking in a bus stop, opposes speed cams. 14 speed cam tickets since 2014, 3 speed cam tickets since January 1st of this year, and at least 42 total violations
And what's
since
this schmuck's name?
2013.
What's his name?
State Senator Martin Golden.
From the Bronx, right?
He's
Or
some
Brooklyn?
One of those. Yeah,
Where's he
one
from?
of those. Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Another Brooklyn.
Say his name again.
Brooklyn is so
so all the listeners can find out what
State
kind of a
Senator
putz
Martin
this guy
Golden.
is.
It doesn't matter, because look at they're putting a commie lib in Queens.
What is wrong with you people?
Maybe Martin Golden is in the UN, because this is about what every person in the UN
I
has
know.
as well.
I know.
And if they got rid of the UN, we'd have a lot more great parking spots in New York.
Man, have we got a big show. Who do we have coming up tonight? Donna.
We are going to be talking to the authority on the electromagnetic pulse. That would be one Dr. Peter Pry. Then Maria ESPINOZA of the Remembrance Project, talking about legal immigration. And the Talkmaster, the big kahuna, Neal BOORTZ, rounding out the top of the show. It's all coming up next on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Hi, thank you for listening. My name is Ron Phillips, and I'm the owner and operations manager of Talk America Radio. It is with great pride that I offer you this 24/7 stream of some of the finest talk radio programming in the country, but I need your support. We are a listener-supported network. That means we need your help to continue to offer the quality programming you're hearing right now. If you're able, please visit talkamericaradio.us and click the Support Us button. Your donation will go a long way in helping us continue to share the American voice. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to the Chronicles of Lower Education with me, the Fed Up Professor. Having spent 8 years diminishing our country's stature internationally and wreaking havoc upon our social fabric with his domestic policies, Barack Obama has now shifted his gaze to college kids. According to Chicago's Channel 9 News, the Obama Foundation's Community Leadership Corps just kicked off a 6-month program at Malcolm X College to train young people who want to grow as civic leaders. And I think that's code for community organizers. Among them is one 19-year-old Diana Villalobos, Director of Outreach and Coordination for UniTeach Learn One, Love One. I have no idea what that means. But she says, it's really refreshing to meet people who are just as committed to creating change as you are. Ah, but what kind of change, Diana? You didn't specify. Another change-happy DePaul student is working to persuade classmates to support raising everyone's tuition by a few dollars in order to create $50,000 scholarships for 3 dreamers, illegals. You notice how they never go after administration's salary. These students will be going to a 3-day boot camp next month so they can get training on how to implement social justice programs. So, more of Obama's feely-good, changey-McChange fundamental transformation of our country, only now the author of the Affordable Care Act, the bend over and grab your ankles foreign policy, immigration flip-floppery, tell Vlad that after the election I'll have more flexibility, is now enlisting and indoctrinating college kids. Do parents really want tuition dollars to fund Obama's ongoing America Last agenda? If you're shopping for a university for your kids, do your research, tell your kids you refuse to pay for social justice degree programs, and believe me, they are aggressive recruiters. So, like everything else, caveat emptor. I'm the Fed Up Professor. See you next week.
This is Don Neuen, co-host of the Drive Time Sit Rep. Join me as I call in to my Intel analyst, Denise Simon, for my daily situation report, or Sit Rep, the Drive Time Sit Rep. Check talkamericaradio.us for more information and show times.
Welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen, and our very special guest is Dr. Peter Vincent Pry. Now, it's been a few years since we've had Dr. Pry on, but if you don't know what an EMP is, electromagnetic pulse, and how it can affect your very life, you better listen up, because if we do get hit with an EMP, we're back into the 1880s. You're basically living like the Amish, and we are seriously unprotected, and Dr. Peter Vincent Pry is at the forefront of trying to wake up the country about this. Your chief of staff right now, the EMP Commission, and Dr. Pry will get to that in a moment. I'm very happy to say that the Trump administration seems to be looking more at this. And you are a former CIA analyst. You've addressed the Senate Armed Services Committee. You've addressed, last time we talked, a number of state legislatures on this problem as well. And 3 books that you can find in the usual spots: Blackout Wars, Apocalypse Unknown, and Electric Armageddon, to just name a few. And that pretty much sums it up. Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. It's been way too long.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Well, let me see. It's been a couple of years. And are we in any better shape as far as protecting the grid than we were before?
Well, we are. There has been definite progress that's been made. For example, the Congress has passed the Critical Infrastructure Protection Act just this last year, which is a huge step forward. It's one of the core recommendations that the Congressional EMP Commission made, and it creates a new national planning scenario. It directs the Department of Homeland Security to add a new national planning scenario. There's like a 15 canonical national planning scenarios: earthquakes, a terrorist bomb goes off in a city, cyber attacks, chemical and biological warfare. But there was never an EMP national planning scenario, and so that kept it off the radar screen for federal, state, and local emergency planners, who basically didn't have to do anything, because the national planning scenarios drive all of our planning and preparation and resource allocation. But now that's changed. So So federal, state, and local governments will have to start preparing for an EMP event, to recover from an EMP event, and to try to save our people from one. So it also requires the Department of Homeland Security to reach out to the states to help them, and and the states can reach out to the Department of Homeland Security and ask for help, and should get it under this. So that's enormous progress. And then at the state level, also there's a consciousness now. I mean, on a bipartisan basis, in both the Senate and the House, Democrats and Republicans are not united on much of anything, except they are united on this. Critical Infrastructure Protection Act passed unanimously, and all of the EMP efforts have enjoyed unanimous support in Congress. And a number of the states have not waited for Washington, but have launched their own legislative initiatives in Maine and Virginia, Florida, Arizona. I just came back from Texas, where Senator Bob Hall has introduced a bill to try to protect the Texas grid from EMP, and testified in support of this bill. So we're in much better shape than we were 8 years ago in terms of policy, okay, in terms of recognition of the threat, in terms of actually trying to do something about the threat. However, the sad fact is, all of these are policy victories, okay? None of them has yet, well, in Maine and Virginia, those states, it has actually translated into actual protection of the grid. So some protection of the grid has actually begun too. However, even though these successes are very encouraging, the fact of the matter is the threat is continuing to outstrip, our preparations for it. During the same 8-year period, North Korea has become much more capable of delivering an EMP attack against us. I think we still have our head buried in the sand where Iran is concerned, where even many conservative Republicans, people who should know better, go along, just accept at face value, it seems to me, the Obama administration intelligence community position that Iran doesn't have the bomb yet. And I and others have written, including many former senior national security experts from the Reagan years, and even from the Clinton administration, like Ambassador Jim Woolsey, who was the director of the CIA under Bill Clinton. We think Iran has actually had the bomb and the ability to do an EMP attack probably since 2003, and that Iran is following the example of North Korea in concealing its nuclear program from us until it becomes so advanced that it becomes irreversible, just like the situation we have today. I mean, people seem to have forgotten that all through the Clinton administration for 8 years, remember when the press was praising Bill Clinton for his agreed framework with North Korea?
I was just about to ask you that. We've got a problem with North Korea now. Exactly. We've got a problem with North Korea now, and we're going to have the same situation with Iran thanks to this multi-billion-dollar deal that Barack Obama did. And, nothing gets talked about as far as that's concerned. Don had a question for you, sir.
Well, basically what I wanted to ask you, Doctor, is if you would explain, because clearly there's two major EMP threats, that of a military action by a rogue country like North Korea or Iran. But there's also the very real possibility of a solar EMP. And would you mind explaining to the listening audience the difference between those two? Which is more severe? Which is more likely? I know that either one of them could be catastrophic to us if we're not prepared for it. But would you dive into that a little bit before we start jumping into Iran and North Korea and that threat?
Certainly. We know more now about the solar EMP threat too than we did 8 years ago. We've learned a lot about the threat from the sun. And it's worse than even the EMP Commission had originally suspected. You asked how likely it is. It's a certainty. It's an inevitable. There will certainly be a recurrence of a Carrington-class natural EMP event. And
we're long overdue on that, are we not?
We are. And not only that, but we also now know that geomagnetic superstorms more powerful than Carrington are possible. Carrington in 1859 was just the most powerful one on record, and the electric power industry liked to think that that was the maximum threat. But it's not the maximum threat. And common sense should have told us that it wasn't the maximum threat. The only reason we know about Carrington is because it also happened in 1859. It's the first time we started deploying magnetometers. But the solar system, is 5 billion years old, and the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. And the notion, now Carrington was only 150 years ago, so it really kind of strains credulity that we just would have happened to have had the most powerful possible solar storm at a time when we just started taking measurements 150 years ago. So that never made sense. And now we know, because we've put up satellites since 2008 that can look at the coronal mass ejections which come out of the sun, which cause geomagnetic storms, geomagnetic superstorms. And we now know that Carrington-class coronal mass ejections and bigger ones are routine. They come out of the sun all the time. It's just we're sort of in a game of Russian roulette with the sun, and it's just a question of time before one of these things slams into us and causes another Carrington event, which would be, and what does that mean? The way this works, to talk about the physics for a moment so people will know what we're talking about. A coronal mass ejection, or sometimes in layman's terms they call it a solar flare, though that's not the proper scientific name for it. These things come out of the sunspots, on the sun, which are big holes in the magnetic fields of the sun, and they basically are like electromagnetic cannons, and a chunk of the sun will come out. It's a huge blob of ionized plasma, that's millions of degrees in temperature, and these things will be hurled out into space. And relatively smaller coronal mass ejections hit the Earth every year and don't have much consequence. They cause geomagnetic storms routine geomagnetic storms that'll cause problems with air travel and maybe some minor blackouts. Sometimes a little more serious than that. For example, there was a coronal mass ejection that caused, in 1989, the Hydro-Quebec storm, which blacked out half of Canada for a day and even reached into the northern United States, caused some damage to our electric grid, including the melting of a extra high voltage transformer at the Salem nuclear plant in the United States. And these extra high voltage transformers are designed to carry 750,000 volts. Okay, 750,000 volts. Yet the transformer melted in seconds. It gives you an idea of the power of the 1989 Hydro-Quebec storm, which was more than a usual. But that's not a Carrington event. Something like that is like 10% of what a Carrington event would be. And if we get hit with a repeat of the Carrington event, we know that was a worldwide phenomenon. What happens is the coronal mass ejection. It's traveling 1 million miles an hour or faster. And the reason the Earth doesn't get burned to a crisp is we're surrounded by a magnetosphere, magnetic field, and this keeps the coronal mass ejection from actually reaching the Earth. But in the process of doing that, the magnetosphere gets distorted, it gets bent, and it wobbles around under the impact from the coronal mass ejection. And when it gets hit by a big enough one, like a Carrington-class coronal mass ejection, the magnetosphere everywhere goes wobbling around. And because you've got that moving magnetic field, that's what generates the electromagnetic pulse. It induces currents and wires on the Earth's surface, and railroad tracks, pipelines, any large, long metal thing. In 1859, when it happened, the colonial powers had deployed telegraph systems all over the world. In China, India, in South Africa, America had deployed telegraph lines, and all over the world we had fires break out in telegraph stations. There were forced fires because the pulse was so powerful it would cause the telegraph line to burst into flames. The pulse from Carrington in 1859 was so powerful it reached down miles deep into the depths of the Atlantic Ocean and burned out the transatlantic telegraph cable, which had just been laid in 1859, and the Great Eastern had to go back and relay the cable again. Now, back in those days, electronic systems and telegraphy was not crucial to the existence of civilization in those horse and buggy days. But today it is. And today the electronics we depend upon are millions of times more vulnerable to EMP than the primitive electronics of 1859. And, if something like that happened today, it would cause the collapse of power grids all over the world. It would cause the collapse of the life-sustaining critical infrastructures that provide food and water and communications and transportation all over the world, and it would put billions of lives at risk. So some people consider the coronal mass ejection, the natural EMP threat, to be even worse than the nuclear EMP threat because it's inevitable. It will happen for sure. We're overdue for one. In fact, we were just missed by one on July 23rd, 2012. One missed us by about 3 days. That's how close we came. And so billions of lives are at risk because people can't live without these modern critical infrastructures, food and water.
You know what, Dr. Pry, let me reintroduce you and hold that thought. We're talking to Dr. Peter Pry. Find his information, actually, at the EMPTaskForce.org. That's the website, EMPTaskForce.org. And his books, he's got many of them, but especially you can find them all on Amazon. The biggie is Blackout Wars, because that explains how you can protect yourself against an EMP. Blackout Wars, Apocalypse Unknown, Electric, Armageddon. Again, find all those books on Amazon, and his latest writings have been found on Newsmax as well, which I also want to get to. But talk a little bit, Dr. Pry, about how, like you say, you couldn't even get in to talk to anyone in the Obama administration. Meanwhile, $150 billion goes to Iran. All we need, is $20 billion, and our grid is protected.
Well, we need less than that. We actually need $2 billion for the EMP Commission plan. Now, $20 billion, you'd be able to protect all of the critical infrastructures, probably, in addition to the electric grid. But I want to get to the punchline about what I was talking about before. About why haven't we gotten the country protected? What is the obstacle? Because let's think about this. What I just said here. Now, the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, has included EMP protection in his new national security strategy, right? In the America I grew up in, that should have been enough to solve the problem. But in addition to that, we have the most powerful member of the U.S. Congress on Homeland Security, the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, Senator Ron Johnson, passing a bill to make it a matter of law under the Critical Infrastructure Protection Act that the United States shall be protected. And yet it isn't happening. It isn't happening. And in a constitutional republic, there should be no excuse for it not happening. But it shows how far we have fallen from what a constitutional republic is supposed to be. Because there is this real thing called the deep state, all right, comprising Obama holdovers and the permanent bureaucracy who think they know better than the President of the United States. They think they know better than the U.S. Congress, and they don't want to do anything. And they're coming up with excuses all the time. Just this past week, I've been in Washington fighting with these guys. And it's just astonishing how they rationalize their ability they come up with excuses. Oh, we've got to study the problem more, to see how risky it really is. So they want to they want to throw monies at the national labs to do endless studies. We've been studying this for decades, and we know what the threat is. That's not necessary. A lot of these people, are from the previous administration, and just are ideologically opposed to anything that has to do with nuclear, even if it's protecting us against nuclear weapons. And these people need to go. We're more than a year into the Trump administration. The reason the EMP Commission was terminated, for example, I don't want to get sidetracked on the termination of the EMP Commission, but it happened in September, and it happened the very month that North Korea successfully tested a hydrogen bomb, which they described as capable of super EMP attack. And then 2 days after that test, on September 2nd, on September 4th, they released a technical report. North Korea published a technical report titled The EMP Might of Nuclear Weapons, which accurately describes how a super EMP nuclear weapon works, all right? Given that event in the beginning of September, you would think the logical reaction would be, well, we'd better start listening to the EMP Commission, okay, and giving a higher profile to the EMP Commission. But instead, the decision was to terminate the EMP Commission. And this was done by Obama holdovers, basically, in the Department of Defense. Even though it was the Trump administration, at his lower operational levels, the decisions of government are not following the will of the president. They're still following Obama administration policies everywhere where these Obama holdovers are. Now, we've been slowly getting them out and bringing in new people, bringing in President Trump's appointees. But the Senate is moving so slowly that we have only half as many Trump administration appointees as Obama had at the same time. And these Obama people aren't going away. They're burrowing in to the federal bureaucracy so that if they were originally appointed and approved, a lot of them are becoming senior executive officers, who can't be fired and will be in the part of the permanent federal bureaucracy. And I just, it's one of my frustrations. The White House needs somebody to keep an eye on this, to get more of their people appointed to these positions, and equally importantly, to stop these Obama holdovers from burrowing into the government and to get them out. I think even if it means that a position is going to be vacant, they should be removed at this point, because these people are basically sabotaging the Trump administration all across the board. It's not alone the EMP issue, but even the wall. Look at the wall.
The Mueller investigation, the DOJ, the IRS.
I can
the
hear
FBI.
your frustration, Dr. Pry.
Yeah, it's happening.
I can really hear it. And I've not heard this level of frustration in any interview that we've had with you in the past. I got to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. I was so pleased that Mark Levin finally caught up to Cowboy Logic Radio and started having Dr. Pry on as a featured guest. Dr. Pry, the first time that you were on the Mark Levin's television show, it's been probably 18 months maybe, is my guess. It's the first time that I ever saw Levin, who I respect more than any talk radio show host. You gave him a deer in the headlights look, and I have not ever seen that. Nobody that I'm aware of has done that to Mark Levin, the great one, and you did it. And I am so pleased that he's brought you into that medium that he has. Now, you have been writing some very terrifying articles, most recently that have been coming to us, and you're talking about Russia. Can you give us a quick thumbnail sketch of what those articles are about?
And Trump is going to meet with Vladimir Putin in a few weeks.
Those articles were motivated by Vladimir Putin's announcement on March 1st of a series of new nuclear superweapons that that Russia is in the process of developing. And one of them was of particular concern to me, called Poseidon. And it's basically a robot submarine that's equipped with a 100 megaton bomb. Okay, it's a robot submarine. There are no humans in the loop. And it's artificially intelligent. So it's the first time in history you've got a situation where you've married a nuclear superweapon, a 100 megaton bomb, which is 10,000 times more powerful than a Hiroshima bomb. It's 1,000 times more powerful than an average American hydrogen bomb, right? And this has been married to an artificially intelligent machine, which is supposed to roam the world's oceans and threaten to cause radioactive tsunamis against America's cities in the event of a nuclear war. This is a step, in my view, that is as significant and as dangerous as the original invention of the atomic bomb, the marriage of artificial intelligence with nuclear superweapons. And my series of articles in Newsmax and my report on Poseidon are about that. And I think this is relevant to EMP2, because in part, Poseidon isn't even the worst part of the story. I think they do plan to deploy Poseidon. In the National Nuclear Posture Review, the intelligence community has confirmed its existence as that a prototype is undergoing development. But I think they have another purpose for that 100 megaton bomb that they're not talking about, because it's an ideal weapon for blacking out North America and sweeping heavens of spy satellites, which is also explained in the report. So it's sort of the perfect EMP weapon. And that's what my series has been about. I'm hoping that President Trump will raise this issue and warn Vladimir Putin that we will not tolerate the deployment of this revolutionary new kind of technology where you've got an artificially intelligent robot armed with a 100 megaton warhead patrolling off our shores. I'm hoping the president will do what he did with North Korea and say no and warn Putin that if they try to deploy that thing, the U.S. Navy will sink it and veto it. Do you want your life dependent on the functioning of Russian automated technology? I don't want to bet my grandchildren's life that nothing will go wrong with that. And this is being done. I mean, Henry Kissinger just wrote an excellent article in The Atlantic titled How the Enlightenment Ends, warning about this very kind of a thing, about the use of how governments are likely to use artificial intelligence for military purposes without thinking much about what could happen if something goes wrong. And before the ink is dry on Kissinger's article, here the Russians are working on this, basically a doomsday machine.
Sounds like that movie War Games. Sounds like that movie War Games. Do you want to play a game? And then the thing goes rogue. And it scares the crap out of everybody. And you think, oh, it can't happen. Well, it can. And that's what's so scary. This government, the one thing they all swear to do first is to protect the homeland. And they're not doing it. Real quick, Dr. Pry, you've met with Donald Trump, though. He's open to this. And are you going to advise him on Poseidon?
Well, I've only met with the president personally once, and that was before he was president. It was during the Iowa caucuses, and I briefed him on the EMP threat. And he promised me, he said, if he's elected president, he'll knock heads together and get this problem solved. And it looks like he's trying to deliver on that promise for the reasons that I explained earlier. But I have met many times with his National Security Council staff, and they have the pit between their teeth. They're trying to make it happen.
Good.
The point is, we're not a dictatorship. The White House alone can't do it. You need the cooperation of the federal government to finally make this happen. And that's why in Blackout Wars, I recommend that people not wait for Washington. You can get your state protected. Governors and state legislatures can do this. Washington doesn't do anything well anymore, as we all know. So I wouldn't wait for Washington. I'd take the security of my state and my community and my family in my own hands if I were in your listening audience, and take the steps that are necessary to protect your state, your community, and your families. Because Washington may fail. They may fail. They may not do this in time. Even though we're headed in the right direction, I fear we're running out of time.
Well, the advice that you just gave everybody about not waiting for Washington, that's pretty darn good advice. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find all of Dr. Pry's great works in the form of the books that he's written at Amazon.com. And if you simply search for Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, P-R-Y, all of his books will come out. Blackout Wars is that's
the one that really explains what you can do to protect yourself and your family. That's the biggie. But all of his books are on Amazon, EMPTaskForce.org as well. And Dr. Pry, please keep up the great work, and we look forward to having you back on. But it is terrifying, but information we all certainly need. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on Cowboy Logic Radio.
And thank both of you for becoming EMP warriors and part of the solution.
We are trying. Dr. Peter Pry, folks. And coming up, Maria Espinoza talking about legal immigration, and Neal BOORTZ, the Talkmaster. All coming up next on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
And I'm Don Neuen, and this is Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen, and we're going to let him show us his Spanish prowess now.
I will introduce the next guest, Donna.
First, you have to get into the Corinthian leather
Yes, everyone,
accent.
when I speak like this, everyone will smell rich Corinthian leather. Ladies and gentlemen,
Ricardo Montalban.
ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to Cowboy Logic Radio, the stellar, the gifted, the talented, the beautiful, Maria Espinoza. ¿Cómo está, Maria?
Hello, Don. Doing well. Boy, you've really sharpened up on your Spanish.
He hasn't gotten
Maria.
a bit better than last time, Maria.
Camisa negro, pantalones café. Zapatos
That's
café.
probably better than I can do, you know? As long as I can get to a restaurant and find where the restroom is, I'm okay.
Baños.
I know
Los-
that from shopping at Home Depot.
Never eat at a Mexican restaurant that is named Los Baños.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Oh, gosh.
True.
All right, well, now that I've
introduce
impressed everybody
Maria,
with my
please?
Spanish-speaking skills, ladies and gentlemen, Donna Fiducia will introduce our next guest to you appropriately.
Okay, Maria Espinoza is the national director of the Remembrance Project. Let's get serious here. She honors and remembers Americans and legal residents killed by illegal aliens. Maria Espinoza, there's like a quilt, isn't there? And you're at, I guess on Twitter it's at Stolen Lives QLT, like quilt. At Stolen Lives QLT. Tell us a little bit about that. But the remembranceproject.org is your website. Go ahead.
Yes, and that we started the quilt, the Stolen Lives quilt, Donna, because we quickly realized back in 2009 and 2010 that obviously the media was not reporting the killings of Americans by illegal aliens. So we obviously knew quickly that we wanted to be able to connect the dots for Americans, and so that they can be educated of what was going on, so they can maybe press their legislators on helping protect Americans, and that's basically through enforcing existing laws.
Tell us a little bit about what's happened lately. I mean, it just seems like our culture is spiraling down the tubes. I mean, you've got Nancy Pelosi up there sticking up for MS-13. Their children or whatever. And meanwhile, these people, they're not even people. They are animals. That's exactly what Donald Trump said. They kill off innocents in the most horrendous ways. And nobody talks about what you call angel families. They're like gold star families. These are Americans killed by illegal aliens. President Trump tried to highlight that, and they mocked him.
Right. And then we have Mad Maxine Waters, inciting and calling for, being disruptive and attacking conservatives and staffers in restaurants like they did to Sarah Sanders, and at the gas pumps and everywhere. This is unbelievable, and why she's not being charged for inciting violence is beyond me. But this is where their desperation, because they're so far left, these loony leftist ideas, is just not working, I think, with the majority of Americans, and including their own party. So they're, trying to push, and I think out of desperation, that they aren't even making sense anymore. But there is no comparison, Donna, in the lives of permanent separation of American families from their children, husbands, and wives, who have been killed by people who shouldn't be here in the first place. We just had Angel Mother and wife on Neal this morning. Her husband and her two children, Ellie and Grayson, and her husband Peter, were killed in a head-on collision by an illegal alien. This family should still be intact, and if this illegal alien was not in our country.
Maria, the issue is not immigration. I mean, any American citizen, for the most part, is here because someone in their family tree was an immigrant. I mean, my family came over from Ireland and Switzerland. Donna's, they were the mafia over in Italy.
Italy and Russia.
But here's the thing. This is a land that's made up of immigrants, but it's also a land that's made up of legal immigration. And the left is trying to paint the right, or conservatives, or the Trump administration, like with this absurd concept that for some reason we don't want immigration to continue. And that could not be further from the truth. What we're interested in is adhering to immigration law and correcting a broken immigration system. All of us have friends that have been trying to become citizens of the United States, and because of the quagmire and the red tape that's involved in doing so, along with the horrific costs sometimes, are prohibitive, to say the least. You know, I've got a good friend that works with me. He's one of our drivers at Star Coaches, and one of the proudest moments of his life outside of the birth of his children was the day that he became a legal U.S. citizen.
Right.
And this is something that is desired, and it's something that the right embraces if it's done legally and if it can be streamlined, because it is an absolute joke. Donna has a very close friend that was trying for the better part of 3 decades to be a U.S. citizen. Donna spent
That's a long
money
time,
on
Donna.
her.
And the real problem
Right.
is because they flood so many people in, they just can't handle the numbers. And that's by
Correct.
design.
Right. And now, let me back up a little bit. Now, the angel wife and mother I mentioned, Courtney, Peter Hacking, her husband, was a legal immigrant from Britain, and he paid the fees and waited, and it took him years to come in this country. So we are a nation with a history of immigration. Not all of us are immigrants like the left likes to say, but we do have a history of immigration. But I think that we always have to remember that the baseline for our immigration, or as a nation, is the fact that we don't have to allow people into our country, but we are gracious that we have a legal way for people to enter. And we do have to look and see what we need here as a country in order to protect this great country. So we can't overflow our nation with so many people that there are not enough jobs or resources or even can get a handle on who's here. And right now, we don't know who's here. And during the hearing last year that my husband Tim and I were in, we heard Congressman Steve King out of Iowa ask a government employee, I don't recall the department she was in, asking her, what does the government do when you cannot vet and learn the background of this individual? And basically they rubber stamp them and let them into our country, and therefore we don't know who is here. We would like to feel that we know who's here and that these people who have been brought to our country have been thoroughly vetted, but they're not. And as you can see, there is a huge uptick in the MS-13 gang membership and activity, and with the unaccompanied minors that arrived at our border several years back during the previous administration, all by design. Here we have then individuals who are part of those gangs and being able to bring drugs in and being mules and continue to devastate our families and our country.
Well, what is also just appalling is the number of these individuals that come in here the first time illegally. They do something, they commit a crime, and it can be a heinous crime, and they end up there. There's no accountability, none. They end up getting out, or they're deported, but they come right back. And I mean, I know of an individual, I don't know where he is now, but he's from Central America. He's come across the U.S. border 5 times, and he's been deported 4 times. Now, he may not be here anymore. That's maybe the 5th time he gets bumped out. But, we had him on the radio show a couple of years ago. This guy was carrying 80-pound bags of weed across the border so that he could get in. Something's really wrong here.
The cartel controls the border, right? And that's people don't understand what's going on. The cartels control that southern border. All of that entire border is controlled by the cartels. And I tell you, if they help you get across, and then you're going to owe them a favor. And this is what they do. And they usually use teenagers as drug mules, because all we do is just release them and they go and try it again. So we don't charge them. That's very unfortunate, because it's done over and over, and our system becomes a huge mockery, and they don't take it seriously. I think that if we started enforcing our existing laws, then we would be able to point to where any reform needs to be taking place. But right now, we're not even enforcing our existing laws, and you can see that there were some ICE agents who signed a letter asking for ICE to be abolished. I think those ICE agents need to be removed immediately. They need to be fired because obviously they don't believe in their jobs. They don't believe in security of our country.
That's what I was going to ask you next. What's your take on this ICE thing? Because it's just the next logical step to having no borders. And that's really what the far left, which is taking over the Democrat Party, wants.
Right. And now this is a very dangerous area because the candidate the leading candidate for the next president of Mexico, Obrador, he's got a long name, I forget, but he is polling at 51%, the second place at 25%, and the third, I think, at 22%. So this might be the new president, and he's calling for an outright invasion of the United States. So what are we to do? Now, erase our borders, erase all security along that border, and let anyone coming across just have a free-for-all for our country and our citizens. It's getting to the point that I think that the Democrat Party is absolutely falling apart. I mean, it makes no sense, and I think that anyone that is still with that party, I'm thinking that they can interject some common sense into it and understand that we have to have laws. We're not a country without borders, we were talking about some of these policies that have put us in this situation, and I wanted to bring up the fact that way back in 2007 that Cory Booker, who is now a U.S. Senator, he was running for mayor up in Newark, New Jersey, and he ran on stopping the gangs and sanctuary cities, and that didn't happen. There were 4 Afro-Americans who were attacked, macheted, and shot, and the girls were raped. And here he promised the families that he would enforce laws and do something to stop this illegal aliens and deport. Deshaun Harvey, Elfima Hightower, and Terrence Ariel were all killed. One young lady, Natasha Ariel, the sister, survived and testified against all 6 of these illegal aliens. And here we are. What did we do? He was voted as mayor, and now he's U.S. Senator and pushing for open borders.
Well, Cory Booker.
Well, I'm from Essex.
Cory Booker is a fraud, and he's a hypocrite.
Well, the thing is, the corruption of the Democrat Party is what got hold of him. Because I'm from Essex County, New Jersey. I watched him come up through the ranks, and he really
And at one point, you liked him.
At one point, well, he lived in the projects even after he got elected mayor. He was down to earth. But then when he got into the Senate, he made one critical mistake early on, and he criticized Barack Obama actually for doing the wrong thing and doing what was best for America. And they took him out, man, and they talked to him because ever since then, he's been way far left. So the left, and that's what happens when they get into the D.C. swamp. They grab hold of him. You conform or else you're out of here.
Maria, I'm going to tell you something. If this character down in Mexico does get elected, and it, at least by the polls, it looks like there's a pretty good chance of this, and he tries this stunt, he's going to have the wrath of the Trump administration coming down on him like he can't even imagine. And I'm going to tell you, the economy of Mexico is going to go into the crapper real fast if he tries that.
Well,
move.
it looks absolutely is Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. Yeah, and for him just to put out this rhetoric is unbelievable. And I think that it really shows you how far what we're dealing with. This is anarchy. We're not even talking about communism and socialism. Now we're talking about anarchy, no laws, no ICE, erase all the borders and, overrun the United States. This is outrageous talk.
Well, here's the bottom line. If Mexico would do its job, we wouldn't need a wall.
Right.
That's the bottom
line.
line.
We do need a wall. Right. We do need them. And I'm for having a physical barrier, whether it's certain type of fencing in areas, so that's what we mean when we talk about a wall. We do need that barrier. And just think, if we have another poor administration like the previous administration, what situation we're going to be in. This is exactly why we need the wall in order to secure America, regardless of the administration. We have at least a barrier. We have some time for the people to be able to get. If we make a mistake like we did the previous administration, at least we have some sort of defense mechanism for us.
Well, they've been trying it since Ronald Reagan, and they keep lying about it. They say they're going to fund it. They get some sort of immigration thing going, and the last thing they do is fund the wall. Maria, let me just reintroduce you. We're talking to Maria ESPINOZA. She is the National Director of the Remembrance Project. You can find her on Twitter at Stolen Lives QLT, as in quilt, at Stolen Lives, or the remembranceproject.org. You can find them on Facebook as well. You know what really gets me is you've said not only are you trying to get out there and honor these angel families, like Gold Star families that lose loved ones in a war, angel families are victims of illegal aliens here in the United States. Even Indianapolis Colts Edwin Jackson and his Uber driver, they were killed, maybe about a year ago from an illegal alien who was a drunk driver and deported twice. You'd think at that point, some people, even from the left, would start to wake up. And they don't. And this is when you try to go online to find your information, Maria, you're telling me that Facebook is choking down a lot of this information. This is insanity.
Right. Like I said, I just tried to post something, and I was tagging people, and right before my eyes, they were untagged. And then a friend called and said the same thing happened to her, and that they no longer get my notification. So, we are being targeted, and this is completely unfair. And I thought Facebook got into trouble about that, but it looks like they're still doing the same thing. They don't care. There's no repercussions for their wrongdoings, and they think they're above the law. And this is where we are in our country. Liberals can do whatever they want. They're above the law. They're untouchable. They can scream and yell at someone in a restaurant publicly and harass them, threaten them. And we've gotten that situation as well, where they don't like the truth that we're talking about. They want to shut us down. It makes it very difficult for a small organization like ours, even though we have a national footprint. And here with our President Trump as well, makes it difficult to fundraise, y'all. So they're doing their best to try to stop us.
All right, right there on that subject, fundraising. Please share with the listeners if anybody has any spare change. If anybody knows anybody with some spare change, what can they do to help your organization out, Maria?
Thank you. They can go to the remembranceproject.org, the remembranceproject.org, and again, any amount we greatly appreciate it. And we're working hard, just like you guys are there as well. And we appreciate all your work, Dawn and Donna, because without you, we would only be talking to ourselves. So we do everything that we can to help and bring up other conservative outlets as well. It's very, very important.
See, what gets me, Maria, you are obviously Hispanic, but this affects everybody. The left thinks that, if you're Hispanic, you automatically are a Democrat, and you're going to love everything we do. And if we can just flood enough Hispanics in there, that they're all going to vote Democrat. To me, whether you're legal or illegal, those are the two big things. And no matter what your nationality, if you're legal, you're not a real happy camper if you're paying taxes and this is happening to you, because your money is not being used the way it needs to be used to protect American citizens.
Exactly. And, I'm seeing more Hispanics coming together and speaking out. 3 years ago, we started America First Latinos, really before anyone started talking about America First. So, we're seeing more of Latinos getting together, and there are other initiatives. It's America First Latinos. It's a website. It's a .org as well. So we're working on that to help give them a platform as well, because we're not for illegal immigration. My goodness, we don't want to be lumped in together with them. That's not who we are, and that's not what we advocate for. So again, thank you for everything that you guys are doing. And, I want to say one more thing, that politicians on both sides of the aisle, and I put a lot more blame on the Republicans because they're supposed to be on our side. Democrat Party seems to be lost completely. But these Republicans, these moderates or rhinos, as we call them, they are filling their campaign re-elections coffers with the blood money of the lobbyists, while our American children are filling America's coffins, and that's the way we see it.
Well, I got to tell you, Maria, and I've said this numerous times on the air before, I don't recognize about half of this country. I really don't. It is foreign to me, and no pun intended with that. But I never thought that we would get to a point in our country where the American citizen is taking a backseat ride to privileges and alleged rights that are being afforded to people that come here illegally, have disregard for the Constitution, have disregard for the laws that we have, and are here to simply suck from the system. I never thought that I would see this. I never even thought of this.
Unfortunately, when they suck from the system, it's like a tick. And eventually, the parasite is going to kill the host. And we can't just keep going on like this. Maria Espinoza, talk real quick. We got about a minute and a half left. The Remembrance Project, your quilt, Stolen Lives Quilt, at Stolen Lives QLT is the Twitter handle. And just talk a little bit about what you're trying to do here with the angel families. In fact, the angel family that you did have on Neal Cavuto's show just this last couple of days.
Oh, yes. What we're doing, Donna, is trying to raise awareness of the epidemic of killings of Americans by people who shouldn't be in the country in the first place, by illegal aliens. And it's simply allowed because our politicians are not placing Americans first and legislating for the betterment of America and Americans. You know, they're working harder to try to legalize illegal aliens and protect the DACA recipients rather than protecting Americans. And that's the first and foremost, and that's the urgency. So we have our Stolen Lives quilt banners that we memorialize 3 victims on each, full color. It's like a flag-like material, 6 feet long by 3 feet tall. In fact, we're going to have to make more of these banners, and we share them across the United States. So, again, your donations will help create some of these banners and get them printed and get it into the families' hands. So we're just giving the angel families a voice and a platform to share their stories so that people can see what's taking place. And, again, angel mom and wife, her husband, Peter Hacking, and her children, Ellie and Grayson Hacking, were killed just over 2 years ago. And the illegal alien received 2 years in prison. And we're trying to keep him in jail for as long as possible, by the way. 2 years in prison for killing 3 Americans and just destroying a family here.
It really is pathetic. All right, Maria Espinoza, also the remembrance.project.org, but also AmericaFirstLatinos.org, correct? .org on that one?
That's right.
Okay, good.
Yes, ma'am.
Please find her great work, folks, at those 2 sites or on Twitter at Stolen Lives QLT, like quilt, at Stolen Lives QLT. Maria Espinoza, thank you again for joining us here on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Thank you so much, Donna and Don, and God bless you all for all the good work that you do.
You too. And coming up next, Neal BOORTZ, the Talkmaster on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Let me talk to you, black people. When you vote for blacks and put them in office under the banner of the Democrat Party, please explain to me what black people get as a result. This was not a nap that we have been taking. We are in a coma. You know what the interesting thing about pensions is? That's today's money given to people who ain't doing nothing for you today. Get off that black Democrat tit that they've been sucking on. Your country is being stolen from you, and the promise is being stolen from your children, and they're telling you it's all right while the rest of the world is trying to lap us. Well, why are we doing so poorly? 2 words: teachers' unions. Are you kidding me?
Black Man Thinking, Monday nights, 9 p.m.
This is Denise Simon. 18 hours a day, I live in a world as an intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. What I find is reprehensible. What I find is terrifying. What I find is treasonous. 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 The mainstream media has completely failed the American people. 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 Join me for the Denise Simon Experience every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
You are about to join Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, and Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience, for a weekly situation report, or SITREP. 18 hours a day, Denise Simon lives her life as an intel analyst. 18 hours a day, Don Neuen lives his life in the world of rock and roll. 1 hour each day, Neuen receives a daily SITREP from Simon. Welcome to the Drive Time Situation Report. Fasten your seatbelt. You're now in Don Neuen's car, and he is calling in for his SITREP.
Check the Talk America Radio schedules for showtimes at talkamericaradio.us. Welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen, and our very special guest, the cleanup hitter, the number 4 guy, the one that's going to close the show, is one I always love having on.
The big poppy of radio.
Yes.
The big poppy of radio,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen.
Since the Yankees and the Red Sox just completed a series this past weekend. Yes, the big poppy of radio. That would be one Neal BOORTZ. Now, Neal is a self-described libertarian, an author, an attorney, and he is the talk master. Anybody who's lived in the Atlanta area knows this for sure. 40-plus years in the Atlanta area on major league talkers, especially WSB, named 25 most important radio talk show hosts in America by Talkers Magazine, and one of Georgia's 100 most influential people, and inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame back in 2009. And he still does his rants and raves. And George Carlin actually would be rolling over in his grave, because many times Neal does say those 7 dirty words you can't say on the radio.
At least
in his
5 or 6 of them.
Yes, and you can find that.
I don't know all 7 of them.
Oh, I could rattle them off, but I can't, because connectpal.com/BOORTZcast is where you can find his stuff. Again, it's connectpal.com/BOORTZcast. And Neal, welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Hey, thank you. Oh, by the way, I'm purging right now. I don't mean that way. But we're moving from 5,600 square feet here in Naples to 2,125 square feet.
Oh, gosh.
You're going to have to go outside to change your mind.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to be on the beach, though, and I can go down and collect those turtle eggs for breakfast in the morning.
There you go.
Ooh, how politically incorrect. Those poor little baby turtles. They're so cute.
Yeah,
and
if you wait to just before they hatch, then they're crunchy. It's really delicious.
Hey, do you have to get those amber-colored lights on your back porch? Because otherwise, when they do hatch, it screws up their navigation system, and they go the wrong way. Did you know that?
The beach lighting is off for right now.
Don's looking at me like, what the heck is she talking about?
I know what you're talking about. And if I know Neal well enough, what he's going to do is he's going to put about 40 billion lumens of white LED light out there just to mess with the newborn turtles.
So he can grab them easier and eat them.
The reason you want those lights is because every once in a while you can find some people having sex on the beach.
Oh, great.
Well, I hear they're doing that in the UK right now with something like Swingfest or something. I'll have to find out what's going on with that. That's kind of creepy.
Well,
Why don't you just move to the villages?
Yeah, you can go to the villages.
Ever actually met any swingers?
Not that I was aware they were swinging, unless it was my kid at a city park.
Well, actually, Don's son used to do some landscaping in the villages. Was one of the guy's clients. And we heard some pretty bizarre stories coming out of the villages.
Yeah, Lee brought back some kind of creepy stories from the villages. And you're down there near there. Why don't you move there, Neal?
No, because it's not on the beach. But the villages consumes half of the state's allotment of penicillin.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt it.
That's exactly what I was thinking, but you went ahead and said it. All right, so Neal, you are also a lawyer. We won't hold that against you. So I want you to talk about, first of all, his arrogance, in my opinion. Rod Rosenstein.
Hold on, Donna. We got to get back to the serious news in a moment.
Uh-oh.
Neal, Europe's biggest sex festival, Swingfields. It's at a secret UK location that is no longer secret.
Apparently.
Look, if you go see those people, you will understand that their only possibility of getting any is in a situation like that.
Exactly. They're hippies they're aging hipsters. Like Austin Powers used to say, there's nothing more pathetic than an aging hipster.
Yeah, an aging swinger.
Yeah, really.
You know, well, there's also this to consider. If everybody has eye-watering body odor, then nobody has eye-watering body odor. Think about that.
Have you been to the Middle East lately?
Oh, man.
No, but I've been on airplanes with some of those people.
Hey, if you're on an airplane...
I am sure that they died shortly after disembarking.
Hey, if you're on an airplane and somebody's got that rancid of body odor, everybody else, you're absolutely correct. Everybody else has it when they get off the plane through osmosis.
Oh, I know.
You can't get it out of your nostrils either. It's terrible.
It's like sour laundry.
Your eyes are burning, and you're begging everybody, please, nobody light a match.
All right, so what were you going to seriously talk about, Donna?
My former Fox colleague that is now the big superstar over at Fox, Greg Jarrett, whom I hosted many shows with and actually found him to be kind of bland, but a nice guy. But apparently he knows his legal stuff. And he has found that Rod Rosenstein weeks ago apparently was going to subpoena Devin Nunes's and other members of Congress's emails and texts to try to shut them up, to stop them from going ahead with forcing Rosenstein to come out with the information they want him to come out with. And then he testifies, and he still says, well, you know, this was a couple days ago, toward the end of last week. Well, I have a lot of people who work under me, and I'm not really hands-on with all this stuff. You're essentially the AG. Don't give us that crap. This one might have precedence, don't you think? I mean, the guy he's horrible.
He's
vile.
He's arrogant.
Yep.
Supercilious, arrogant. All of those descriptors, and he along with Stroke or Storch or whatever the hell his name is, and
let's call him Stork.
Stork.
Yeah, they have
Dork.
Just almost single-handedly destroyed the confidence that the American people have in the FBI and also in the Department of Justice. Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. must be spinning in his urn right now. So many years spent building up the image and the respect for the FBI, it's gone now.
Yeah, it really is.
I don't know if Chris Wray is going to be the person to build it back.
And he wasn't any better. When he testified, he was kind of taking the side of Rosenstein. I mean, where is Jeff Sessions? I want to know where Jeff Sessions is. You know that?
Hey, Neal. I'm looking for Jeff Sessions now. Jeff,
at what point did Jeff Sessions ever have your confidence? When was that?
When he was a senator.
The first 24 hours he was there until he recused himself.
Donna, I have to correct you. Jeff Sessions, we live out here near where Jeff Sessions from Alabama, and there's been a bolo out for Jeff Sessions. We have not been able to locate him, although we have seen him a couple of times on television. We just don't know whether or not it's real time.
Somebody ought to take a mirror and put it on the wall opposite his toilet so that when he sits down, he can look at his reflection and a sign below it that says, "This is the only time during this day that you're actually going to know what the hell you're doing."
How about a sign #useless underneath it? I mean, really? And somebody's got something on him, seriously. And this is how the Clintons and the Obamas operate. When you're president of the United States, you've got the dirt on everybody. And if you're going to use it nefariously, then, we're gone. Our democracy, republic, whatever the left wants to call it, a republic, is gone. If you don't have responsibility, these people are using it. First of all, they never came out with when Jeff Sessions was being confirmed, that he met with Kiss My Yak, however many times. It was in passing, the Russian diplomat. And then all of a sudden, as soon as he gets confirmed, boom, they come out with it. That's exactly what Barack Obama did when he was running for Senate. The guy he was running against had his divorce papers sealed, and all of a sudden, as soon as Obama started running against him, they came out. They use this stuff when they need it. And it's so apparent. And you've got him getting himself recused for having a passing meeting with Kismayak. And Rod Rosenstein actually signs a FISA warrant, and he's not recused?
So now, are you starting to understand why your pal Neal BOORTZ is just retreating from all of this?
Absolutely.
I agree. It's frustrating.
Yesterday, another story on Drudge. I don't know if it was a Wall Street Journal story or not, but yet another story about people in this country. And this truly is alarming, of people becoming totally weary and even afraid of the news cycle. They just don't want to know what's going on anymore. It all feels so completely out of control. They don't think they can do anything about it. And here it is, freaked out Americans desperately seeking to escape the news. That came from Bloomberg, whatever. The lead paragraph last week.
Neal, let me ask you this. And I agree with you 100%. I mean, Donna and I get away from the news and the media by watching a network television station that's called MeTV. All it does is play old shows, like we're watching Mannix and Cannon right now.
And the Rifleman.
Exactly.
Yes, love it.
But let me ask you this, Neal. How much of that do you feel is intentional as a Saul Alinsky tactic? Think about it.
Of just frightening people away from the news?
Just inundating them to the point where they can't absorb it and they walk away and don't pay attention.
Well, I think that's an excellent point because, first of all, and I made this point for decades on talk radio, that there have been nations like America before that were based in the rule of law, okay, rather than mob rule, with a economic liberty and freedom. Those nations generally lasted about 200, 220, or 30 years. America has outlived its life expectancy. And we have all of these people running around in this country with voter registration cards in their back pocket who think that, well, this will all straighten itself out. Nothing's going to happen to my country. It's been around all my life, my parents' life, my grandparents' life. We're good to go. And they're dead absolute wrong. Talk to some people who lived in the Soviet Union in 1988. Ask them what happened the very next year. And we are on the verge of losing this country, completely losing this country to the left. And anything they can do to discourage people so that they say, screw it, I'm not even going to vote anymore. I'm not going to pay attention anymore. I'm not going to watch what's going on. I'm not going to learn. It's just all too depressing. Every person they can get to adopt that attitude is a winner for them.
Look at Venezuela, too. They don't even talk about
that.
Look
at South Africa.
Look
at Cuba. You're right, Neal. It pretty much happens overnight.
Yeah, and I totally think it would have happened overnight if Hillary Clinton were elected. Donald Trump is the speed bump, and that's why they got to stop him. And I also believe that because of the internet, which was never there, obviously, in ancient history, is the only reason the sleeping giant got woken up. Most people try to go to work, take care of their family, take them to Little League games, soccer games, Kumon Learning Center when they can't learn what they need to learn in a public school system. And it's totally, they're just trying to make ends meet. And then all of a sudden, boom, their life is turned upside down when they realize they're being taxed to death, regulated out of existence, and everything else. And what really scares me is how many people that are coming up through the ranks now because of the public indoctrination school system we have that think socialism and communism is great. Look at this 28-year-old that just got elected in Queens, New York. And then as soon as they start paying taxes, whoops, might be too late when they realize, well, maybe Donald Trump might have had some good points there.
I can imagine in my mind how this all works. The electorate goes to sleep. They let the left move in. All of a sudden the borders are open, and then all of a sudden they find that in local elections, school board elections first, well, their kids all go to school. Then city elections, then state elections. That people who are in this country illegally, people who are not citizens, are allowed to vote. And then suddenly, on a national level, through some freaked out Supreme Court decision or maybe even an amendment, we find non-citizens voting in federal elections and illegal immigrants, aliens voting in federal elections. And then we discover that the people who want to live off of the efforts of others, the people who want to restrict speech, the people who want to take away our right to self-defense, the people who want to suppress religious expressions, we find these people have absolute control through the ballot box. We are in a mob rule situation, and America essentially is over. And that's the direction we're heading in. And I'm glad I'm 73 years old, and, I'm going to be, I'll see it happen, but I'll see it happen as I'm leaving the room.
I could not agree with you more. And there's two things that I want to bring up as a parlay onto what you just said. First of all, I want to discuss a breaking news notification that I just received and get you guys both to weigh in on this. Ladies and gentlemen, Gloria Allred will be holding a press conference detailing the sexual assault allegations made by her client, a Chicago woman, against President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, whoever that might be. What are your thoughts on this? On a serious note, what are your thoughts on and who do you like as a potential nominee for the Supreme Court? But also a follow-up question on that, Neal. Based on what you just said about the demise of America, what do you plan to do about it? What are you going to plan to do for your daughter and your grandchildren? What are you going to do?
I'm going to make them rich as hell.
That's a good start
so that they can pack up and go wherever the hell they want to when this thing falls apart. Years ago, we are talking in the 1980s, maybe, the 90s, I forget, I could figure it out, but I served on the board of directors of a media organization with Gloria Allred. So I got to know her then. And I wish to state for the record now, I don't want any of that now any more than I wanted any of that then.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do you think about SCOTUS? Because
talk about sexual harassment. That girl she knew how to do that.
I bet she did. And let me ask you.
Well, so does her daughter, who nobody ever talks about.
That's sexual harassment.
Bloom.
Yeah, that's sexual harassment.
Come on, Don. Her daughter was about 6 years old at that time.
Well, she grew up in that environment.
Yeah, but now the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Gloria, if you're listening, the answer was no then, and the answer is no now.
But the thing is, with the Supreme Court nominee, at least the right might get a few battles that they're winning, because God forbid from these, libtards, I was going to call them, but I am going to call them. Basically,
that's fine.
From their viewpoint, their heads are exploding around the country now, because this is really going to offset the balance. And God forbid they get rid of Roe versus Wade. That's going to happen, even though nothing along that line is even working its way up through through the system. But they're trying to scare everybody. But we might get at least a little victory here.
Yeah, it'll probably be a little victory. But don't forget, you have shaky Susan Collins up there in Maine. You have Jeff Flake. You have a couple of Republican senators. You have John McCain. God bless him for his heroism and his patriotism, but he should have freaking resigned.
They need to make laws for that, I'll be honest with you, because he purposely didn't resign because he wanted his wife to be chosen. She wasn't going to be chosen, so he stuck it to the electorate by hanging in there after, I believe it was June 1st. That was the deadline. He could care less about the people he's supposed to be representing.
I should admit, I don't know if the governor of Arizona is a Republican or a Democrat at this point.
He's a Republican.
Okay, well, then he should have resigned. And I love Arizona. A couple of weeks ago, I spent a week in Arizona. I just love it out there. But John McCain may get his last backhand across the face of the Statue of Liberty before he goes tango uniform for not having resigned and allowing somebody like Susan Collins to hasten the end of this country.
Norman.
I was going to say,
don't forget the blueberries.
Is Susan Collins don't forget the blueberries, Norman.
Oh gosh! All right.
Well, let me. Hey, Neal, who do you like? Because I'm gonna put it out that if I had my choice, I would go with Mike Lee. The only thing that matters to me with regard to a Supreme Court justice is that they completely embrace and make every decision that they make based on the Constitution. That's all I care about.
I agree, and I'd like for them to be an NRA member, too.
Well,
I would say that the majority of those folks are that are on his short list.
I'd like whoever it is to have a concealed carry permit.
So Don can run. Don can run. Don's carrying right now.
Me as a Supreme? Oh, man.
You don't have to be a lawyer.
The only problem is Don's is never concealed. If there was a holster where the gun could be worn on your forehead, he'd have one.
That's true. That's absolutely.
That's actually not true. I'm very discretionary where I carry open and where I carry concealed.
On occasion, he pulls his shirt out.
When I was on the air at WSB, they had a strict guns free policy over there. You people, when I was doing the show from their studio, now a lot of people don't know this, but I covered this in my last podcast. When I was on the air at WGST, we're talking the 1970s, on 3 occasions we had somebody come into that station armed. On one occasion, it was an estranged husband who killed his estranged wife who was working at the station. On another occasion, it was somebody coming down the hallway with a shotgun asking where the studio was while I was on the air. I mean, when I was at WSB, how many days do you think I spent in that studio that I didn't have a weapon in my pocket or in my briefcase next to me?
I would say every day you had one because you had a glass window, didn't you, that looked right outside, didn't you?
Yeah, it was bulletproof, though. But let me tell you this. The people in the newsroom, they made it known if there's ever a shooter that comes into this place, we're heading into the studio because there's somebody in there that has a gun, knows how to use it, and won't be afraid to do it.
Well, because of you turned a soft target into a hard target, which is exactly what we ought to be doing in schools and every place else where we're evil people, that there is absolutely no law that can be written that can protect good people from evil people. There's no law that can be written. And so the only way to get around this is to harden every target that is needed, period.
Well, look at what happened in Annapolis. I mean,
Well, the saddest part of the Annapolis story, Donna, was that crime writer who looks like a spike-haired hippie anyway, saying that I was hiding under my desk, and it was frightening. And then the guy stopped to reload, and I'm wondering, when he reloads, is he going to come shoot me? Hey, asshole, if you had a gun, you could stand up while he's reloading and blow him away. Oh, but
exactly.
No, it's a gun-free work zone. Tell that to the shooter.
It's a sitting duck work zone is what it is. Well, they say...
I like that, yeah.
But they say that a conservative is a liberal that's been a victim of a crime, which does happen quite a bit lately. And it really is sad. We're talking with Neal BOORTZ, again, syndicated radio show host for like 40 years in the Atlanta area. We just love him. He's retired now down there in Florida, but he still rants and raves on his BOORTZcast. You can find him at connectpal.com/BOORTZcast, connectpal.com/BOORTZcast. And real quick, Neal, we've got about 3 minutes. Tell us about, it's just the next step. Because we can't get rid of no borders. We can't have one nice big North American treaty. So now we got to get rid of ICE, the one thing that stands between us and lawlessness.
Well, the no borders, the open borders, this is a crowd that wants, very frankly, they want America to be flooded with non-white immigrants to reduce the influence and the power of white Americans who they consider to be the enemy and the problem. And let me tell you about this abolish the Supreme Court movement that's out there now. There's a hashtag also, abolish SCOTUS. These are Democrats. They believe in mob rule. Liberals, progressives, mob rule. The majority rules. Listen, when the majority rules, what the hell do you need with an organization that interprets the law? The law does not count. Only the wishes, demands, and desires of the majority count. And the open borders crowd out there is trying to build a majority of dependency, a majority of dependency on government that will give them the power that they need to order the lives of all of the underlings below them that they believe to be unworthy of handling their lives themselves.
It's classic Marxism when you think about it. And this whole thing with the Mueller investigation against Donald Trump just highlights the whole situation, because these people thought by this time Trump would be out of there. And it shows you how deep the IRS, the FBI, quite frankly, the CIA, and of course the Department of Justice now is, how deep the deep state really is, and how the swamp creatures aren't giving up without a fight.
The only solution here is to vote in such overwhelming numbers during the midterm elections. Suck it up, take the time, and vote in such overwhelming numbers that these people get the message, we've got to change our tune or we aren't going to have any influence anymore.
Absolutely.
All right, we got about a minute left, and I want to say one thing to you, Neal. I've told you this before. Ladies and gentlemen, we consider Neal, and we're grateful that he considers us to be a friend. But I'm also here to tell you, Neal, that in my opinion, and I've been listening to talk radio since the early 80s, there was no better. There is no better. You were the best, my friend.
Well,
you
that's
really
awfully
were.
kind of. Right now, I just want to be the best bus driver. But
well, you're pretty darn good at that, too.
Don's not hiring, unfortunately, though. You'll have to drive your own bus. And I grew up in the New York area, Neal, and I miss it. I only got you on the tail end, which really chaps my you-know-what, but that's okay. I still
You
got
were
to
the
hear
best,
toward the end.
and the mold
Damn,
was
Donna,
broken.
I did it for 43 years.
I know, but I only came down the last 10, so what can I say? You know,
Okay.
It was rough. But Neal BOORTZ, thank you so much.
People are awfully kind. Thank you.
And we love having you on. ConnectPal.com/BOORTZcast. ConnectPal.com/BOORTZcast is where you can find them. BOORTZCAST. And Neal, we always like to leave with a slogan, this one, or a saying, from Martin Luther King. Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. Kind of like that one, given what's going on.
I do like it.
All right, well, everybody.
Well, he was a Republican, you know.
Yeah, I know. They don't want anybody to know that, though. That's more revisionist history. Well, everybody, have a great week. Have a wonderful Independence Day. Remember the reason for that day as well. We have the greatest country in the world. We'll see you next week. And in the meantime, God bless America.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.